Hey, fifth grade, welcome to your math lesson for Tuesday, April 28th. So, right now, you guys should be on the math lesson 5.6. All right. Make sure that you have your notes out if you are taking notes on a piece of paper, and also a blank piece of paper to try all of the problems out to make sure that you are checking your work, a pencil, of course, eraser. Okay, so make sure you have all those out. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds. Okay, so for today, you guys are going to be answering the PST, which says the manager of a ball factory made the table below to show the number of balls that are made at the factory each day for 2 weeks. Okay, so you guys have, of course, the days of the week, and then what was made in the first week in the first column, well, the middle column, and then what was made in the second week for the last column. All right, so you guys are analyzing this data and you're looking at the chart, you're looking at the patterns. Then you're going to read A through G and circle all that apply for what is true with the patterns that are shown right here. So clearly, we're working on patterns from the past couple of days. So this is just adding on to that knowledge that you guys already know about how to determine a pattern with the work that is given to you. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and get into the PST only and stop. Realize the directions says explain your answer and why choices you didn't circle are incorrect. So clearly you're circling the correct pieces, and then you're also writing down why the other ones are not correct at all. Okay, go ahead and pause the video, get started on the PST. All right. So clearly, before you get into the answer choices, you were supposed to look at the data that's given to you, look at the information, look at the numbers, and try to determine that pattern to start off. So if we're looking at just the first week, what do you guys think the pattern is right here? So we went from Monday, so they gave us the number of balls made for the first week from Monday to Friday. What is a pattern right here? What did you guys determine? Exactly. We are subtracting 25 every single time. So clearly, as the week keeps going for the first week, we are minusing 25 because that's how many balls are made per day. Okay, so it keeps getting lower by 25 every single time. All right, now let's get into the second week. What do you guys think the pattern is here from the numbers that are given in our second week from day to day? Correct. We are taking the first number in front and we're dividing it by 2 every single time. So these numbers are getting split in half as the week goes on. So we have 21,712 divided by 2 equals 10,856. Then we have 10,856 divided by 2, which is 5,482. And then, of course, 5,482 divided by 2 is 2,714. And then lastly, 2,714 divided by 2 equals 1,357. So we are taking these numbers and each day splitting it up into 2. So this is our pattern for week 2. All right, so now that we've established these patterns together, let's get into which of the following statements is true about the corresponding terms, okay? So we already figured out what each day is by the pattern and what each week are by the pattern. So we were supposed to get into that final portion of establishing what terms are true and why, and then which ones are not, okay? So we're scrolling down. Okay, so which of the following term is true about the corresponding terms in both the first week and the second week? Circle all that apply. Only 2 answers right here are correct for the PST. We're going to go through and figure out why. So let's go with A. So why is A incorrect? The same number of balls were made each day. Correct. We already know that A is incorrect because these all are not the same value for every single day. So we know that the same number of balls were not made each day. So clearly that's already incorrect. Let's go with B. The least number of balls are made at the end of the second week. What do you guys think about B and why do you think it's correct? Okay, so clearly we need to look at the last term for each week. So we have 1,665 and 1,357. And we know that this is correct because the term in the second week on the last day is definitely less than the last day for the first week. So that's why this one is correct. Let's go to C. Each term in the pattern is a quarter of the number preceding it. What do you guys think? And why is this incorrect? Exactly. So we know based off of what we just did for determining our patterns first, that this is incorrect because if it was a quarter of the number in front of it, then we will be dividing by 1/4 every single time. Okay. So we know that this is incorrect because each term before it is not a fourth of it. Okay. D. More balls are made at the end of each week than at the beginning of each week. Why is this incorrect? Right. So as you guys can see that the last term is way less than the beginning term. So this is definitely incorrect because they did not make more balls at the end of the week than they did in the beginning of the week. E. More balls are made at the beginning of each week than at the end of each week. So this is definitely the opposite of what D was saying, which is why this is correct. We know that it started off with a higher number every single week and then ended up with a less number in the end. So this is why E is correct. Let's go to F. The value of the digit in the tens place is 3 less than the term before it. What do you guys think of this one and why is it incorrect? Exactly. So realize right here that this comparison is the opposite of this comparison right here is if you underline the tens place and then determine if it changes in the pattern, like you guys should realize that even though this includes place value, it means subtract 3 from the tens place each time. So this is why F is incorrect. G. The number of balls in the first week is double the number of balls in the second week. Why is G incorrect? Exactly. So right here, you're supposed to realize that it means you will multiply by 2 when it says double, and that clearly this is all the way incorrect based off of the terms that we have in our first week and our second week. All right. So we have now determined which one is true and why after we determine how what our patterns are for each week. Okay? So you guys are now going to get into the practice problems. Well, actually, let's get into our notes first, of course. So bring out your notes page, bring out your notebook, anything that you're taking your notes on to copy the notes down for today. So make sure that you guys are copying down both notes for today. It's fairly short, but this is what we've been doing. We're adding on to that knowledge that we've already been working on, and we know that I can review a set of numbers and determine the pattern and the sequence. So that's what we did initially by looking at the first week and the second week and determining that pattern. And then after that, the second note is I can compare two patterns and explain the relationship between them. So we're looking at these two patterns and we're trying to determine those relationships between these two patterns. And that's what we did in the second portion when we are trying to figure out what is true about this pattern and what is not. Go ahead and pause the video and copy these down. Okay, so you guys are now going to get into the practice problems for today. Make sure you are writing down your work on a side piece of paper and tracking what you are doing. Okay, so make sure you are doing that and getting into all 4 pages of the practice packet for today, and then coming back to go over your answers and see any misconceptions that you may have had and how and why they're incorrect. Go ahead and pause the video and get started. All right, so welcome back from trying out the practice problems. Let's go through the answers together and understand why these are the correct answers. So, for the first piece, you were to determine the pattern, then explain it in complete sentences. So, simple as pattern 1, you have 13, 12, 11, and 10. Realize it is decreasing by minus 1 each time. So I know that 13 minus 1 is 12, 12 minus 1, 11, 11 minus 1 is 10. So minus 1 every single time. Pattern 2, the same exact pattern, but just different numbers. So I went from 91 minus 1 equals 90, 90 minus 1 equals 89, 89 minus 1 is 88. Minus 1 every single time. Okay, let's go down to the second piece. Pattern 1. So it has 3, 6, 12, and 24. So I know that I am multiplying by 2 every single time. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. Pattern 2, same thing, just different numbers. So I have 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times 2, 28. 28 times 2, 56. Okay, now pattern 1. If I wanted to add the next number for this pattern 1, what do you guys think it would be and why? Exactly, it will be 48 because I know 24 times 2 is going to be 48. So think of these patterns in a sense that if you wanted to add on next, what would you have to do? Okay, this one, you had to create coordinate pairs from the rules below. So these are the numbers I use, and then we're going to go through each one so you can understand why I use these numbers. So y is equal to x. My coordinate would be 1 and 1. They equal each other. Simple as that. B, y is 1 more than x. So I changed my x to 2, and then I added 1 to get for my y. So this is 1 more than my x. Okay. The next coordinate I made was 3 and 15. Why did I do that based off of the C? Correct. I knew that 3 times 5 is 15. So that's why my y coordinate right now is 15 times my x, which is 3. Next, I have D. Y is 1 more than 3 times x. So look what I put right here. I did 4 and 13. How did I get to here? Exactly. So I multiplied 4 times 3, which was 12, and then I added 1 more to get to my y, which would be 13, because y is 1 more than 3 times x. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1, 13. Lastly, y is 1 less than 2 times x. So I'm going through the same concept again. So I know that 5 times 2 is 10, minus 1, because it has to be 1 less, is 9. All right, let's keep on going. So right here, you had to determine the pattern, then explain it in sentences, in complete sentences. So again, we are going through that same process of trying to figure out what these patterns are and what the numbers that are given to us. Okay. So some may have clearly these have the same patterns, but it's on you to figure out why they're the same patterns and how we're getting there. And also try out your work on the side if you think you're getting confused on these. So pattern 1, 3, 1.5, and 0.75. I know that it's continuously decreasing by half of the what I originally had every single time. So 3 divided by 2, 1.5. 1.5 divided by 2, 0.75. Same for pattern 2. 12 divided by 2, 6. 6 divided by 2, 3. If I wanted to add on to this pattern right here, what do you think my next number would be for pattern 2? Correct. It will be 1.5 because it's 3 divided by 2 equals 1.5. All right, let's keep going. Make sure if you are still getting confused on patterns that you guys are reaching out to your teachers, getting those conferences in, and writing down any misconceptions you're having with your notes so that you guys can get it right all the way. Paula's rule. Count the number of seconds between seeing the lightning and hearing the thunder. For every 5 seconds counted, the storm is 1 mile away. Okay, so based on Paula's rule, which of the following tables shows the relationship between the number of seconds counted and the distance of the thunderstorm? Okay, so I want you guys to realize how and why this is correct. I chose the answer A. Why did I do that? Correct. So I know that my time right now has to go by every 5 seconds because for every 5 seconds counted, the storm is 1 mile away. So my left hand side is showing my time. So every 5 seconds, I know that the storm is 1 mile away. So if it's zero time, that means it's zero distances. Now, every 5 seconds, so I have my five, that equals 1 mile. If I double that every 10 seconds, I have to add on another mile. 15, so that's three. I have to add on another mile. 20, that's four. So 5 times 4. So 5 seconds times four, that equals 4 miles. Okay. So realize why C is incorrect. It's not telling us to count from 1 to 5 and figure out how many distances away. This is clearly the opposite of what we're working on. B, it's incorrect because it's not we can't start at 0 seconds and be 1 mile away. It says for every 5 seconds counted, the storm is 1 mile away. All right. And then D, again, we can't have 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second. That's not showing how many seconds counted for five with that 1 mile being away. Okay, so this is why A represents this story for Paolo's rule. Okay, let's get to this part. So we have pattern A, pattern B, and pattern C. Which of the following is true? Circle all the correct answers. So, what did I not do prior to circling answers here? Exactly. I didn't give my pattern rule to understand or interpret what is actually going on in each pattern before I can get into the relationship between them. So, if you didn't do this, pause the video right now and state what the rules are for pattern A, B, and C. Okay, so I wrote down my rules and then I needed to interpret what the relationships are for these patterns. Okay, so let's go down and figure them out. So, A, each term in pattern A is 2 times the corresponding term in pattern B. Why is this false? Exactly. So, I know if I'm looking at my terms right now, 3 is not 2 times this corresponding term right here in pattern B. So I know if this was supposed to be, this technically should be switched. So if I were looking at the term B for 6 and looking at term A, then I would know that term A is technically half of the corresponding terms in term B, which leads us into the answer choice B and why B is correct. So 3 is half of 6, 6 is half of 12, 9 half of 18, so on and so forth as we keep going down the rules. Okay, so let's go to C. So A, clearly we know why it's incorrect. B, we just got to why it's correct because the corresponding terms in each part are half of the terms in part B, in pattern B. C, each term in pattern A is less than the corresponding term in pattern B. What do you guys think? Again, incorrect because if we go down, we know 12 minus 3 is not 6. Okay, so when we're looking at these numbers, corresponding terms are the numbers that they line up with in order of how they're being played in their pattern. So if I'm looking at this, I know that 12 minus 3 is not 6, which is why C is incorrect. That's just me pulling out a couple of corresponding terms here at this point. D, each term in pattern A is one more than a corresponding term in pattern C. So we're looking at pattern A and pattern C. All right, so it says each term in pattern A is one more than the corresponding term in pattern C, meaning if I go down the list for pattern A and pattern C, then each one should be one more. So 3 is one more than 2, absolutely. 6 is not one more than 4, so that's clearly incorrect. E, each term in pattern C is 1/3 times the corresponding term in pattern B. Why did I say yes to this? Exactly, because I know if I did 6 times 1/3, it gives me the 2. Clearly, I'm multiplying by a fraction less than 1, so it's going to lead me to a number that is less than my original factor. And I also can reverse this and think of it as 2 times 3 equals 6, 4 times 3 equals 12, so on and so forth. Okay, let's go to F. Each term in pattern C is 3 times the corresponding term in pattern B. Why is this incorrect? Exactly. So I know that pattern C is not 3 times the corresponding term. I can easily look at this by saying if 2, if if 6 times 3 equals 2. Is that correct? Absolutely not. All right. Let's go down to G. Each term in pattern B is 3 times the corresponding term in pattern C. This is the opposite of what F was saying. So this one is correct because, again, if I pull a corresponding term out from pattern C, I know 2 times 3 equals 6, 4 times 3 equals 12, so on and so forth. So we keep on looking at those corresponding terms and how they relate to each other here. Okay, last one, H. Each term in pattern B is 2 times the corresponding term in pattern A. What do you guys think? Correct. This is correct because if I look at pattern B, I know that it is going to be 2 times what I'm getting in pattern A. So I can look at the corresponding terms 3 from pattern A and 6, and I know 3 times 2 equals 6. Going down the line, 6 times 2 equals 12. 9 times 2 equals 18. If you are having problems trying to figure out the relationship between different patterns and things like that, make sure you are reaching out to your teachers, okay? Because this is what we're working on today. We're trying to figure out those relationships between two different patterns and how they are, again, corresponding to each other in those different terms. Okay, let's get to this one. So we had to determine the rule for each pattern, then answer the questions. So, what is the rule for pattern A? What is the rule for pattern B? Yes, exactly. Each of the rules are adding 3. So 9 plus 3, 12. 12 plus 3, 15. So on and so forth. 6 plus 3, 9. 9 plus 3, 12. On and on and on. Okay? So what is the relationship between the terms in each pattern? So this is when we have to look at each term, corresponding term, okay, to figure out what this relationship is. Okay, so I know that if I'm going down and trying to figure out this relationship, that pattern A is 3 more than pattern B for each row. So, well, each column. So I know that if I needed 6 plus 3 is getting me to 9. 9 plus 3 getting me to 12. 12 plus 3, 15. Okay? So on and so forth. Now, it's asking us to use this relationship to figure out what will be the next number in pattern B if the term in pattern A is 99. So again, you can clearly see that pattern A is 3 more than pattern B, correct? So if 99 is pattern A, then I know 96 will be in pattern B for that corresponding term because 96 plus 3 equals 99. Okay. Again, looking at the patterns and trying to figure out what is the relationship between them after the fact. So the patterns above are synchronized. If the number in pattern A is 19, what will be the number in pattern B? Okay, so we know right here that you have to always figure out the rule before you try to figure out that kind of relationship. So I pointed out the rule first. So the rule in pattern A is adding 1. The rule in pattern B is adding 6. So if I know that these are synchronized right here, what is the relationship between the two so far? Correct. I can realize that if I do 3 times 6, it is getting me to pattern B. So each for each corresponding term, I need to multiply pattern A by 6 in order to get to pattern B. So 3 times 6, 18. 4 times 6, 24. 5 times 6, 30. 6 times 36, 6 times 6, 36. 7 times 6, 42. So if the number in pattern A is 19, what will the number in pattern B be? Exactly why this is 114, because you were taking 19, multiplying it by 6, and then that's how you're getting 114. Okay, last page. So again, we're just determining the patterns and the rules for each one of these. It's more of review right here at this point. So which choice best demonstrates a pattern with the rule add to? A, obviously, 5 plus 2, 7, 7 plus 2, 9, 9 plus 2, 11, so on and so forth. Okay. Again, if you look at the other ones, you know that C is like has really like plus 9. B is not really going to add 2. Like all of them, you have to look at each one and how they're getting to the next number every single time. How is that pattern continuing? Okay. Which choice best demonstrates a pattern with the rule subtract 8? Again, look at the answer choices. Why don't you guys, did you do the workout? That's the easiest way to figure it out how this rule corresponds to which pattern is demonstrating this, like demonstrating subtract 8. Exactly why this one is A. 36 minus 8, 28. 28 minus 8, 20. 20 minus 8, 12. 12 minus 8, 4. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a bonus question. If I wanted to figure out the next number in this pattern, what will it be? So I end it with 4. You have to go with this rule, and you need to tell me in Gmail, email, and things like GChat, or email me what the answer would be in the next pattern for the what the number would be in this next pattern if we kept up with the rule. So we end it with 4. Okay? Follow this rule and send me that correct answer. Okay. Last but not least, we have a couple more to go to. You are looking at the two patterns below. Determine the rule for each pattern. Okay. So of course, this one is subtracting 10 over and over again. This one is adding 10 over and over again. Again, do the workout. It's easier to do the workout so you guys can see how this pattern is actually being demonstrated every single time. Okay. Jeff's pattern here, Maxine's pattern is here. What is the relationship for Jeff and Maxine? How would you explain the relationship between both patterns? Okay, so I know that the rule for Jeff is add 6 over and over again. The rule for Maxine is adding 3 over and over again. And then the relationship, I need to look at each corresponding term in order to figure this out. Okay. So I'm now realizing that in order for me to get to Maxine from Jeff, I need to divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I'm now realizing in order for me to get from Jeff to Maxine, Maxine's is half of Jeff's every single time. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 18 divided by 2, 9. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Okay, so right now that relationship between both patterns is that Maxine is half of what Jeff's is for that corresponding term. Okay. All right. So today, your secret code for your exit ticket is the word butter. Okay. So Butter. All right. Make sure you are putting the secret code in to do your exit ticket out. Try this exit ticket out on blank piece of paper before you get into writing your answer or choosing your answer for today. Also, make sure you are showing your work, writing down any misconceptions or questions that you have to reach out and ask your teacher. Okay. Happy Tuesday. Have a great day.